Okay.
Hi, I'm Matt Lucas. For my leisure hobby project, I did gardening. So I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about that. So I did a slideshow presentation. Um, so traditionally, gardening has been seen as a female leisure activity. This is a picture of a local community garden here in Emeryville. I think that it started off as a female activity because nature has been seen as a female domain. In early hunter-gatherer society, there was a sexual division of labor, with foraging as a primary source of food. Men hunted. They tended to dominate nature rather than nurture it. So, but men have started becoming involved with gardening. This is a bunch of green beans that I picked at a community garden. The Men's Gardening Association of America, formed in 1933. It only recently allowed women into the association. It actually saw a stagnation in membership during World War II, as a lot of the men were involved in the war. I think that a lot more men are involved in sort of traditional male activities because there's more funding for male activities. For example, with college sports, women make up 57% of the college population, but only receive 45% of the athletic scholarships. Additionally, there's not a lot of funding for traditional female leisure activities such as gardening. Also, growing up and around nature is important for how we choose our leisure activities. In an essay called Children's Active and Passive Interaction with Plants, it's shown that children exposed to nature are more likely to engage with nature later in life. I saw at one of the community gardens there was a little girl. She was really involved with the plants and would pick fruit and do things with her mom. I think that her early interaction with plants will lead to later interaction as well. I think this could change, of course, if more boys were exposed to gardening and nature when they were younger as well. Gardening has been seen as a sort of extension of the home as a domestic sphere. Typically, women have been seen as domestic. It's a pretty common stereotype for females to be at home, domestic, taking care of the house and stuff like that. Here is a picture of some compost bins. At this community garden in Emeryville, they had 3 different stages for the compost. At the other one that I went to, there was only one bin that rotated every 6 months. In an article about men do the grunt work, women choose the colors, it talked about how men do most of the labor in gardening, while women will choose the colors and the flowers, what plants. This is slowly changing as award-winning professional gardeners like Andy Sturgeon and Cleve West are changing the shape of the garden. I also saw this in my own experience with the few men at the gardening sites. The men would do the compost, sort of the dirty work, while the women would pick the fruit or do a little easier things. But this can change as well. A lot of tools make it unnecessary for men to engage in heavy lifting and stuff, especially as there's more machines to help women do more of the heavy labor. And men, of course, do things like pick flowers and stuff. For me, my personal experience, I thought it was pretty challenging. I hadn't gardened in a long time, but evidently you just need three things: soil, sun, and water. I watched a few YouTube clips. This is one. And, you know, I read some books about it. Most of the gardening was actually bed gardening. So you have beds where most of your flowers and everything is grown. Although we did use trestles for the green beans, which I'll show a picture of in just a second. I read this article, which is, you know, a basic how-to garden. Here you can see the green beans on the trestles. They basically grow up the trestle, and then it's easier to pick the green beans off of. Just some final thoughts. You know, gardening takes a lot of time. It's a slow thing. I'm not sure if I would participate in gardening again. I don't like it as a leisure activity. It's slow. It's actually a lot of work. It did make me understand women a little better, just, you know, the patience involved in taking time and maintenance of a plant, and it made me understand the men a little better as well. Some of the men were older, and it's like a lifetime leisure activity. Ultimately, it seems like maintaining your garden and just gardening is about taking the bad things out and leaving the good things in, like any sort of gender thing. Here at the end is a link to some common weeds, which of course I pulled. Thank you very much.